Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sunny in Seattle. I'm your host, Sunny Joy McMillan, and we're here every Friday from 9 to 10 a.m. on Alternative Talk, 1150 a.m. KKNW in Seattle, as well as 103.3 KPCA in Petaluma, bringing you amazing guests and resources that will help you create a life filled with peace, joy, freedom, and purpose. It is radio that positively shines. And if you can't catch the show live, you can always access those show archives. Those are found at 1150kknw.com. You can also find the show on iTunes and Podcast One. And you are always welcome to find out more about me by visiting my website, which is goldenoversoul.com. So, Benny, Merry Christmas, since I haven't talked to you
Yeah,
since
back
before.
at you. We're past it. We're through it. We're on to another one for next year. And Happy New Year to you as well.
Hey, you too, Benny.
Thanks.
It's so funny. This is, part of what makes this particular show special is it's rounding out not only the year, but the decade. And it'll be almost 5 years that we've been doing this show right here as we close out.
Don't make me cry. You know, teary-eyed. Don't make me cry.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I was just telling our guest before we went on air, who our guest today is Sara Landon, and Benny knows Sara well. I know Sara well, and she has been probably the most repeat guest on Sunny in Seattle. And I was looking at the show calendar, and I'm, booked out several months. And then I looked down and I thought, wait a minute, I didn't feel December 27th. And this was about a week ago. And I thought, oh my goodness, how did I miss this fact?
You have returnees, you have all-stars. I mean, there's just so many, wonderful things we could say about it. You just got to bring that person back.
I know. And I thought, well, this little spot has apparently been waiting for Sara. And I reached out to her. And Sara, I'll read your bio in a minute. But I want to bring you on because you had just said what, Sara, before I called?
I had just said that I was going to take like a week between Christmas and New Year's. And I wasn't going to, not that I work, not that it's work. It's my absolute joy to do what I do. But I thought, well, maybe I need a little downtime. And then I thought, nah. I don't need that. I'm good. I don't need any downtime. And then 5 minutes later, I got your message about doing this.
Just tossing a radio show.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm glad I didn't catch you 5 minutes sooner when you were like, nope, I'm on a break.
Exactly. Yep, 5 minutes sooner, the answer would have been no, Sunny.
Well, it just feels so synchronistic. I really can't think of anyone that I would want to round out the year and the decade with more than you as our guest. So I'm just so happy that you're here, and thank you for making space during your break time or whatever ends up being your downtime to come back on Sunny in Seattle.
Yes, we'll call it our uptime,
There you go. Much better. I know. Isn't it fun to rethink all those words we use all the time and think, yeah, I like uptime better.
Yes, exactly. And I just love the perfect synchronicity of in the moment I went, I'm so happy. I love what I do. I don't need any downtime. This is good. And then there you are. Like, how perfect is that? So I love it.
Well, for those who don't know you, I'm just going to read your official bio, and then we'll go ahead and let you tell them a little bit more about you. But Sara Landon has been called a leader of leaders for the next generation of transformation. A former corporate professional and entrepreneur turned inspirational speaker, spiritual teacher, and intuitive channel, Sara is recognized as a globally celebrated leader in the field of human potential and spiritual living. Sara's passion is helping people discover their unique life's purpose and the power within them to create a positive impact in the world around them. Sara's ability to connect into an expanded awareness and higher level consciousness offers clients, students, and participants in her courses, workshops, and coaching programs the wisdom to live their highest potential, regardless of current limitations and life circumstances. Sara is living proof that when aligned to the energetic power of the source within you, anything is possible. You can find out more about her by visiting her website, which is saralandon.com. That is saralandon.com. And, Sara, I know we've shared your story on the show before, sometimes more limited form, sometimes a little bit more detailed. And I'm just going to leave it up to you this morning to share whatever feels appropriate about your background before we kind of dive in about what's going on with the wisdom from the council these days.
Oh, gosh. The first thing that comes to mind when you say that is just that kind of flashback to 10 years ago, 2009, going into 2010. I mean, thinking about each of us, where were you 10 years ago? We're going into a new decade and a new time. And literally, I was living a completely different life.
Yeah.
In Seattle, actually. I absolutely love Seattle. It has a very, very special place in my heart always, and so many wonderful friends and great people there. And I was in the corporate world, living the dream, what I thought I was supposed to be doing in order to live a happy, successful life. And at that time, though, I had just gone through quite an awakening experience myself of just having gone through a divorce, having had cancer, really knowing that I needed to leave my corporate career, which I had spent years building, and a company and an incredible group of people that I loved, but I just knew it was not my purpose. And I didn't really know what my purpose was. If you would have asked me 10 years ago what I would be doing now, there's no way I would have said anything, even close to the life I'm living now. But through a series of incredible events and experiences, I now absolutely live a life beyond my wildest dreams that I never could have imagined for myself. And it really was a process of going through the awakening experience, when you start questioning life. My initial experience of this was when my brother died in a car accident in 2001. And it really opened my awareness to so much more that is going on in our life beyond what our physical senses can perceive. And I was raised very in a very loving Christian family with the influence of a very spiritual aunt. And I always loved God, and it always knew that there was this higher power or something more, but I didn't really know what that meant in my life. And I certainly never related that to living a successful life. You have spirituality over here on one side, and you have work, success, making money, doing all the things you quote unquote should or are supposed to be doing on this side. And what I've really come to realize is that, spirituality, consciousness, awareness, all of these deeper things actually are what create a more fulfilling, purposeful life with more joy and more love and greater harmonious relationships and more ease and well-being in your life and health, as well as that feeling of being living a rich, full, successful life is what happens when you integrate your higher potential into your everyday life. And I think what I have said this a couple of times, you've probably heard me say it, we all sort of have this quest in our life experience, this one sort of question that is always driving us. What is that one question for you that you're always sort of seeking to answer in your life? And if you just, something might come up and pop right into your mind, or you might think about it over the next couple of days as you're going into the new year. But for me, the underlying question always in my life has been, what's really possible with our life experience? What is our highest potential? What this whole notion that anything is possible for us when we begin to move beyond our limitation, our beliefs in our own limitations. And so the work that I do now is all about that, helping people live their absolute highest potential, whatever that is for you and whatever that means for you. And to me, we all absolutely, no matter what your current circumstances are, no matter what your current life conditions are, anything and everything is possible for you, and you absolutely can live a miraculous life, a magical life with joy and love and well-being and abundance and beauty, really just that deep appreciation for all that we have been given in this life experience. And so as we go into the new year, just kind of asking yourself that question, what is it that really drives you? What is it that really you're always sort of seeking on this quest to answer this one question with your life experience. And you might find a greater awareness of what your purpose is in really asking yourself that question.
God, I have so many questions now that I want to ask you after hearing that. But I am curious, since we are talking about, your life being so drastically different looking back 10 years ago. Of course, I'm very similarly situated, vastly different life, still married, still living in Austin, and still so many other things, not even really on my spiritual journey yet, or wasn't aware of it. I'm sure I was, but just wasn't aware of it. And things have changed so dramatically for me. I know from your life, Sara, that you really are an example of living what is possible, living the highest potential, and things really being joyful, easy, effortless, harmonious, all the good stuff. And I'm just curious, how long did it take for you to go from the old way of doing things to this way that you are now showing is possible? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, it's a great question, Sunny. And the answer, from my perspective, is it's a continual practice every day. Every day I see just kind of that it's the little sort of thing where we go, oh, I've been working so hard and I finally can take a day off. That is your own belief. That's your own belief in being stuck or not free to do what you want to do with your life. It's I think the interesting thing that we've been talking about a lot in the master's class program and in a lot of the courses and the teachings and the wisdom that comes through recently is that, the thing we all really want is freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom to be who we are, freedom to live our life the way we want to live, free to have the experiences we want to have. If you think about, if somebody wants money or they want to create more money or earn more money or make more money or start a business, if you really ask them, what is it that you really, really want? Why do you want more money? And they almost always say, because I want to be free to do what I want to do and create what I want to create. I want to make a lot of money so I can travel and I have the freedom to live my life the way I want to live it or do the things I want to do. The very definition, I think, of abundance is having whatever you need to in order to do what you feel called to do when you feel called to do it. And for most people, they think, once I have the money, I'll be free. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, we just take the same beliefs and our own limitation into whatever level of financial success we have. We just take the same limited beliefs. We take the same thing of, you can't play until you've worked really hard. You can't live the life you want to live and travel until you work hard for 30 or 40 years and then retire is a very core limited belief we have in our collective. Mm-hmm. The idea that you can't have fun until you've worked hard all day or all week. And then on the weekend when you're so exhausted, right?
Yeah.
That was my former life. My life was all about living for my vacations. And you get to this place where you create a life, just like not wanting to take any downtime this week. I love my life. I love what I do. I don't have a job. I do what brings me joy. But yet there's still this practice every day of seeing the limited beliefs I have put on myself and really practicing being aware of them and being impeccable with what you really believe is possible for you. So let's go back to freedom for a second. If you want health, if you want a healthy body, if you want to be free of a pain or a disease or an ailment, you want it so that you can be free, mm-hmm. free to go play, free to, go have the experiences you want to have without pain or without disease or having the energy. All of that is freedom. I even think that the same is true in relationships. When people say, I want to create a loving relationship, or I want to get married, or I want to find my soulmate. If you really dig into that, there's this underlying belief that when they found the one, then they would be free to express who they really are and be who they really are. Yeah. It all comes back to freedom. And yet, I believe that freedom is almost the thing that we fear the most. Being so incredibly free to be who you are, to expand and to grow, to express all that you are, to have the experiences you want to have and live the life you want to have, would mean that you have to take complete and total responsibility for your life. There's no more excuses. There's no more blaming anybody. There's no more story. You can't blame your parents. You can't blame your family. You can't blame your conditions or your upbringing. You have to actually live from a level of total responsibility for your choices, for your beliefs, for the way you think, and for your actions every day. And so when we bring that to our awareness and we start to see all the little ways we've just been programmed and conditioned, and there's no blame in that at all. It's just we've picked up these beliefs that we're not really free to be who we want to be, or to be all that we are, or to live the life we want to live. And you absolutely are. You could not be more free. You're so incredibly free that you can choose to think thoughts that hold you in limitation all day long, whether you're conscious of them or not. So the first step is just recognizing that it's a practice. Be so kind and gentle to yourself and really practice self-love in doing this. But you will see that every day there's an opportunity to realize that you really are free to choose the life you want to live every single day. And what experience do you want to have today? One of the things that I think has really been a huge shift in the teachings is, being aware of this word do. Yeah. Do and should, right? What should I do? Or I should do this, or what do I need to do today, right? The second you ask yourself, what do I need to do today? You're kind of in this powerless mode. These are the things you have to do. And you will only be free to do what you want to do after you do the things you have to do or should do. And this is just one way we keep ourselves stuck and overwhelmed and unable to do the things that we really want to do that bring us joy. And when I ask people, what really brings you joy? Sometimes people can't answer that question. Sometimes they really have to think about it. But for the most part, when they do get around to really going, okay, what brings me joy? Nature, sunshine, music, their friends, their family, their animals, their dog, their cat, their horse, doing things that are fun for them, maybe drawing or painting or cooking. It's all pretty similar. Most people say that the majority of the things that bring them joy are all very similar to everyone. And yet, when you ask them, when's the last time you did those things? Most people say, I can't, I don't have time, I have to do all these other things for other people. So they start their day with, what do I have to do? Instead of, what brings me joy, or what experience do I want to have today? What do I want to experience today? If you're thinking about the new year, if you're thinking about just this time between Christmas and the new year, where maybe things aren't quite as busy, starting to program your way of thinking this way, starting to practice this. What experience do I want to have today? What do I want to experience today? And maybe the first thing that comes to mind is doing something out in nature, going for a walk, or maybe a person comes to mind, or maybe you want to sit and journal or make a list of all the things that you're grateful for, you appreciate, but just starting to make this shift from not what do I have to do to what experience do I want to have today? And you start seeing that you are actually free to choose. It's just even noticing that every single day you're free to make hundreds, if not thousands, of choices that you don't realize that you're actually free to make, which is, what did you wear today? What did you eat for breakfast? What did you say to that person? What did you say to this person? what'd you have for lunch? What'd you eat for dinner? You're making choices all day long. You're absolutely, totally free to live the life you want to live and be who you are and express all that you are. You just have to give yourself permission to do so.
Yeah, and I really I like where the teachings have been going, but I'm going to play devil's advocate for a minute here, because I'm sure for people out there listening, they say, okay, that sounds all well and good, that I want to have more freedom as an experience today. I want to have more joy. I want all of the good stuff, but I have a job that pays my mortgage, or I have certain family obligations that are in place. And we have, as we've already acknowledged, a lot of collective beliefs about working hard for a meager reward. So is it just like an incremental process of doing this little by little, or do you advise people to kind of jump off the deep end and just trust that it's all going to be all well and good? Or when people are having human concerns, how do you respond to that to still bring these teachings into their life?
Yeah, really good question. Thank you. So two things here. First off, I'm going to start with trust.
Okay.
Because I hear this a lot. Do I just trust? How can I really trust God? Or how do I really trust the universe? Or how do I really trust that Source has my back? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really about trusting the universe or trusting God or trusting these things outside of you. The thing that you've really got to trust is you. It's really about trusting yourself to be present, to stay clear and grounded, to allow yourself to be guided. You can always tell if you're in the moment and you're really present and you're tuned into how you feel. You can always, what the next perfect step is. You know what you're feeling guided to do. Intuition is always, always, always available to you, but it's in the present moment. You don't get intuition for 20 or 100 steps ahead. You get intuition for the next perfect step. And we do get intuition of maybe a bigger picture or a vision or a grander perspective of things, but you still have to tune in the moment. So trust is simply and only about you trusting that no matter what happens and no matter what goes on, that you can come into the moment and be present and be conscious and be aware in every moment and aligned with yourself. That's trust.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're worried, if you're stressed, if you're anxious, all you're really doing is taking yourself out of the present moment where you feel completely ungrounded, out of your power, powerless, and intuition can't guide you when you're worried and stressed and living in the future. And the same is true when you're living in the past. If you're feeling guilty or resentful or you're feeling shame, you're living in the past and you're not in the moment. And so you don't get intuition when you're not present and conscious and aware in this moment. So that's just a little thing about trust.
Yeah.
So first off, in your question, you said people who have to go to a job to pay their bills, they have family obligations. That's just a way of thinking that makes us feel powerless over our conditions, over our life. It holds us in bondage. It keeps us stuck. And most people get pretty resentful.
Mm-hmm.
It is a belief. It's a way of thinking. I have to go to work. I have these family obligations. It's putting all of your power out there. And so the first thing is just take a moment and realize you don't have to do anything. You are choosing to honor a family obligation. You are choosing to go to that job. You are choosing to have a job and that job. And you're choosing to have the expenses you have. You're choosing that. Now, just that one simple thing, if you can shift into, wait, I chose this. I might want to choose something different from this moment on.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever you're living is based on the choices you've made up until now. And the more aware and the more conscious you are, the grander perspective you really have of who you really are and why you're here and what's possible for you, you can begin to choose based on what you want to create more of or what you want more of in your life. But the first step is really understanding that you've chosen all of that and you're choosing to honor a family obligation, or you're choosing to continue to work for that employer.
Yes. Yeah. And this looks like a good time to take our break. Does that sound okay, Sarah? And we can pick it up when we come back? Yeah. Okay. Benny, if that sounds good to you, let's take our break. You are listening to Sunny in Seattle. I am joined today by spiritual teacher and channel Sara Landon, one of our favorite return guests. To find out more about her, the website is saralandon.com. And we will be back in just a few. And welcome back to Sunny in Seattle. I'm your host, Sunny Joy, joined today by spiritual teacher and spiritual channel, Sara Landon. And we were talking during the break, Sarah, we were just, what all we want to cover, because our conversations could go on way longer than an hour. But I recently was blessed to have a session with the council, and one of the things I really wanted to talk about was something that came up that has been really meaningful and transformative to me. So just a little bit of background is I have been really asking you've asked about earlier in the show, what are some of the biggest driving questions in our life? And one of the ones that I've really been sitting with for quite some time is making sure that I'm living my purpose. And I think the reason that it's so, what's the word? It feels so urgent for me, or it needs to happen, is because I feel like I spent the first 30 some odd years of my life overriding the guidance that I was getting from, my soul or from the divine, or just where my heart and spirit were leading me. I basically looked at it or listened to the voice and told it, sorry, no, I'm going this way because my human wants this. And I think this is the only way I can get it. So I, ended up in a marriage it's hard to say. I don't know that I would trade my experiences necessarily. I just wonder if there was a more easy and effortless path to where I'm, ultimately where some of the dots will connect in a different way. Either way, I don't think we can make mistakes, get it wrong. But anyway, I spent, until about midlife overriding the leanings of my heart, spirit, soul. And I just want to make sure that for the duration that I'm here in a human body, that I really listen to my soul and do what I came here to do. And I'm also one of those that believes that before we take on a human body, we look down or from wherever we are in the ethereal realms, wherever those are. And, say, okay, here's some potentials. Here's some things that would be really cool to do. Here's some people I may meet up with, some relationships I may have, some work that I may do. Whatever the most fun, big, full experiences that I envision, I want to live those and listen to my soul in doing so. All that to say, then I get this big, mounting pressure, oh my gosh, what if I don't live my purpose? What if I'm not getting what I wanted to do right? And so this beautiful session that I had with the council basically was relax. From a soul's perspective, your soul doesn't come in here. It doesn't necessarily have to be president, have to be Oprah, have to do this one specific thing with this one specific person. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be this one specific way. From the soul's perspective, there are various ways that you can get there. And it is just to live fully and love yourself. And I thought, what? So anyway, that's the lead up to say, what are your thoughts on all that, Sarah?
Oh, well, just a little point of clarity in case people are wondering or they're new to my work. The council is expanded awareness and higher level consciousness that I channel, and it's a collective, and they always refer to themselves as we, and so the wisdom and the teaching that come through me from the council is what Sunny's referring to. It's I was on that same journey. My purpose must be really specific, and I don't want to get it wrong. It's really interesting that I think this whole underlying thing for so many people of being good enough and accomplishing enough so that they have achieved or that they are successful so that they can finally be good enough, maybe, prove to a parent or, prove to someone that said they couldn't make it, that they're good enough. It's this really, really deep, deep, deep fear that we could somehow get our purpose in this life experience wrong. From a religious perspective, a lot of people feel like, that they didn't live God's plan for their life, or that they didn't get the plan right. And this for a lot of people is a really heavy burden to carry, to think that you could ever get your purpose wrong. And it's not that specific, but it is simply about really, really loving yourself. And even if you look at core religious teachings, love God with thy whole heart, mind, body, and soul. That's self-love. That's you really loving yourself. And some people can go, okay, yeah, I get that part. But the second part of fully living, really fully living your life. And most of the time we're sitting here explaining why we can't fully live the life we want to live. We feel disempowered, we feel stuck, we've got all these reasons and excuses and beliefs and circumstances of why we can't fully live our life. So when you come to the end of your life and you look back at it, most people would say, I wish I would have done that thing I always wanted to do, at least have tried, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the living fully. Your purpose is fully living your life and loving yourself, and all the other parts of the divine plan and God's plan and your purpose. It'll all happen through you as you live your life fully. So you're here to express all that you are, to be all that you are. For most of us, that's still really a practice. You might discover every day more of who you are and who you really want to be. But it's also understanding that every experience you have in your life, to your example of your divorce and certain things in your life, that most people heard that little voice that said, don't do that, or don't do this, or, we really wanted something. Mm-hmm. And yet, like you said, we went about it in a way that might have been very limiting, might have been gone against kind of our own truth or our own well-being, or we agreed to something that we never wanted to agree to, but we thought that's the only way that, we're going to be able to have that experience we want to have, or do that thing we want to do. And so we kind of silently, quietly, a little bit at a time, kind of betray our soul. And then we don't really trust ourselves because we got the little intuition that said, don't do that or do this, and we didn't listen to it.
Yeah.
And so it's a practice of listening to it again and really forgiving yourself, because a lot of times we might think that, wow, look at all the trauma and drama I created for myself when I didn't trust myself and listen to my own intuition. And sometimes it can be a process in itself to really forgive yourself without judging yourself. We've been talking a lot about judgment, and judgment of others, judgment of what we think's right and wrong, judgment of ourselves. But judgment always entangles you with trauma and drama and stress and usually negativity. So forgive yourself without judging yourself for whatever you did until now. You did the very best you could with what you knew, and honor that. When you know better, you really do better. When you begin to realize the power you have, the ability you have to create the life you want to live, you do make different choices and you do go about things differently. But forgive yourself for those times that you forgot who you really are and what's really possible for you. And so all those experiences that we have, they provide data, they provide information. It all leads to your expansion. It all expands your soul. It expands your consciousness. It expands your awareness. It all serves. So you can't really get it wrong, as you said. And so go ahead, Sunny.
Oh, no, please. No, as you keep going, I'm like, nope, I want to keep listening. So keep going.
So the real, I think, piece that's important is just I remember years ago, before I ever got into doing this work, I was always very drawn to spiritual teachings. And I think probably a lot of people can relate. You've read a lot of books, you've got a lot of information, but it's about really living it. It's about applying it in your life. Once you have an experience of it, that's when it changes you and you go, oh, I know what that means now. So I remember years and years and years ago reading The Power of Now, and I struggled to read the book. And I remember going, okay, I don't know how this whole present moment now thing, I don't know how it's going to make me any more money or more success, right. Or I don't know how I'm going to be happier with that, Oh my gosh. It took me many years to get to the place where I actually had the experience of going, oh, I get it. It really is all about being here now, in the now moment, being present, taking a breath, be where you are, and accept where you are, accept just the way it is right now. And instantly you will feel a sense of peace. And it goes back in this awareness that when you're in judgment, when you're in resistance, when you're reacting to what is, your entire body is in fight and flight mode. Your body is stressed. You're constricting. You're not going to receive intuition, divine guidance, that inspiration you want. When we're in those moments, when we really think we need inspired action the most, the very resistance that we're in, or the judgment of ourself of how did I get in this position, or the reaction to what someone else did, right? That's the very thing that's holding you in a state that doesn't allow you to access the inspiration that's always available to you in every moment. But you've got to be in the moment. And the more present you are, and the more space you put around yourself, and the more awareness you have of the light that's in that space, you'll know what to do. You'll know where to go. You'll know what to say. You'll be in this flow of life. I remember hearing, that for years and years, this idea of being in the flow, it goes back to Taoism. And I didn't know what that meant until I really had an experience of it. And so, it is about practicing this. It is about being open and recognizing when you have an experience of it. And where we're going now, is this transition from being in this time of transformation. Transformation is that the metaphor or the analogy of going from a caterpillar, crawling on the ground with a very limited viewpoint of life to, why am I in this cocoon and what's going on here, to emerging as this beautiful butterfly that is, magical and miraculous and beautiful. And for a lot of people, we've been going through that transformation for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And the life that you were living no longer worked for you, or, it felt like things were falling apart, but they really were falling into place for you. Life is always happening for you. It's not happening to you. It's always happening for you. So this time has been of transformation. And, for many people, it's been a dark night of the soul, or a dark decade, or a dark year. There's been a lot going on. And so we're now moving into that transformation of really emerging on the other side of it into a much more miraculous life experience. And so we're moving into the decade of the master, which is really about living mastery, really mastering all of this wisdom and this awareness, not from a hierarchical or comparison level, but so that you can really master your life experience so that it can be everything you meant it to be, so that you can fully live your life and love yourself and live in a state of joy and harmony. And it's about moving into this magical way of living. And I really mean that in the most grounded perspective, that when you begin to start noticing the beauty and the magic and the ease and the flow and the joy in your life, you just get more. You get what you're focused on, but more than anything, you get what you are, which means that if you are in a state of joy and peace, you get more of that. That's a whole other topic of conversation, but moving into this time of really knowing yourself as the master that you are of your own life experience is living fully, loving yourself fully, be all that you are, know that you are free, and living in the moment where you're present and aligned and you're conscious of what you're choosing, of what you're thinking, of what you're feeling, of the experiences that you're creating.
Yeah, and I know you have specifically your next course coming up starting January 11th is on the Decade of the Master. That will be a way to take that further, I guess, and embody those principles. For those out there who are interested, that is available. Sara, going into this new decade, you have coming up a really special, what is it? I guess a segment is what we call it on Gaia TV. And I'm just dying to know how that came about. And because I've, of course, seen a clip of it, just a little short segment, and having visited you in Santa Barbara and knowing these very specific places where you taped these segments, including your beautiful sanctuary of a property there. I'm so excited. How did that come about? And what are you going to be talking about on that show?
I think that's the brief story of how this came together. It's an interview on Gaia TV, which is a dream come true that I didn't really have until the moment it came true. But I realized it is beyond even the biggest dream I had for myself at one point. But I'll tell you the story really briefly, because when I was in the corporate world, I was living in Seattle, living a totally different life. This is about 10 years ago, almost exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember going, that I really did have a great life. I don't mean to say in any way that my life at the time was not wonderful and that I was not so blessed, because I was very blessed. I just knew I wasn't really living my life. I was doing everything that I thought I should do or I was supposed to do to be successful and happy. And it wasn't really based on me consciously choosing what experience I wanted to have or how I wanted to live my own life fully. I just did what I thought I should do.
Right.
And had a great amount of success doing it. But I had never really seen anyone do what I wanted to do. There were some examples of it, like Wayne Dyer. I really loved Wayne Dyer. I had read a lot of his books. I had seen some of his programs on PBS and things. And the only thing I could really identify 12 years ago in my life was being a spiritual teacher. And the only thing I really saw that somehow excited me and went, oh yeah, that's it. That's the experience I want to have, was Wayne Dyer being interviewed by Oprah on Super Soul Sunday. And then I started watching Oprah Super Soul Sunday, which is filmed about a mile from my present home in Santa Barbara. And so the dream that I held in my heart and in my imagination for many, many, many years was imagining myself under the oak trees being interviewed by Oprah at her estate, in Montecito, and, something like what Wayne Dyer did. And so that's what moved me forward. That's the momentum I had. That's the direction I was going. That was sort of the goal that I had. And through a variety of incredible experiences, I ended up moving to Santa Barbara. I ended up doing this work, which is even beyond what I ever could have imagined I would be doing. and I had the opportunity to meet and Oprah and her staff, and right about the time that she essentially stopped doing Super Soul Sunday. And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. Like the whole dream that propelled me forward. And so I just continued to hold that, in the right place, in the right time. But one of the things that the council always taught was don't put such a big gap between where you are and what your dream is, no matter how big it is. And so I happen to live, like I said, about a mile or so from Oprah, in a beautiful, beautiful property and home. And it's like a sanctuary. Sunny's been here. And I have these beautiful oak trees. And so I would oftentimes go walk under the oak trees or sit and just kind of imagine that I was being interviewed by Oprah and what I would talk about and what I wanted to say. And so long story short, a out of the blue, quote unquote, which is kind of my my code name for, wow, this is like a miracle or some divine orchestration. I get a call from Reuben Langdon, who has a new show on Gaia TV. And his first season was so successful that they doubled his budget and wanted a whole new season in a very short period of time. So they gave him a crew. And he said, I want to come to Santa Barbara and interview you. So he shows up with his crew, his film crew. And I swear I think it was 3 days of just it was so beyond anything I could have ever imagined for myself. We were filming in my favorite places. We had a drone. We set up a studio and a set in my house and in my backyard. And we filmed it all at my house with my dog and my cat in my home. Which was so far beyond. Like, it was just awesome. So that interview is coming out in about February, March of 2020 on Gaia TV, which was beyond my wildest dreams, something I never could have thought to ask for. And, that was one of the very first messages I ever received when I started channeling the council was, if you will just live this wisdom and these teachings, you will live a life beyond your wildest dreams. And I remember going, okay, well, you might be source energy and all, but I have some really big dreams and I don't know about that. But I did. And really for me, this work is, my first and foremost commitment and purpose is to live the wisdom and the teachings that come through me and to show others how your life can be everything you want it to be. And I really, truly believe that living it is the greatest gift I could ever give. And I think for everyone, it's the same. Whatever it is that you most want for the people that you love, if you want your family to just be happy, then the greatest gift you could ever give them is for you to just be happy. Whatever you want to give others, you must first embody it and live it and give it to yourself. You cannot give what you do not have. And most all the time, people come to me and they say, I want to help people. I want to help people. I want to help people. And what can I do to help people? And the council would say, do what you love. Live your life fully. That will help people. You being an inspiration, you getting beyond the limited beliefs, all this limited programming and conditioning that we get. And it's all, there's no judgment in that at all. I really don't mean that from a judgmental perspective. I think every day we sift through more and more, limited beliefs that we've sort of picked up or ways of speaking that actually disempower us that we might not have even realized.
Yeah.
And every day you just get a little bit more aware of it and you shift it, you get a little bit, it gets easier and you do start to really embody this more. But the best thing you could ever do to help anybody is be all that you are and live your life fully. And you live a life of joy and ease and fun and let your life be everything you really want it to be.
Yeah. And I just have to say, I'm of course a member of the master's class community that you have. And one of the things that I've noticed is there are a lot of places you can give your intention and energy in the world. And I know there are a lot of places that people want to help and heal and fix and all of that. And I honor that. But in order to be recharged enough in my own experience to go back out into the world, I need people like you who are living what is possible so that I am inspired, so that I see what can be possible for others as well as myself. So anyway, I just have to thank you, Sara, for coming back today to talk about all of this and to be that inspiration, to show what is possible and to help us really live our fullest potential simply by loving ourselves and living fully without having some big, hairy, scary plan for something specific we feel like we have to do to get it right. So thank you, Sara.
Yeah. And, it might be something very simple. We create this, a lot of the helping thing comes from this programming of, religion and all of that. And I am, my greatest, my core is just this deep alignment to being a humanitarian and a philanthropist and giving and serving and loving and wanting to uplift others. I think if you're listening to this, you probably are totally aligned with that, or you probably wouldn't be listening to this conversation.
In 30 seconds, Sara.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So it's just making that little shift that you are, you're the light of the world. You're the love in the world. Joy comes through you. If you want more peace in the world, you must first find it within you. That's how you create more peace in the world, in your life, in your family, is through you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And on that beautiful note, we will bring this decade of Sunny in Seattle, this year of Sunny in Seattle, to a close. To find out more about Sara and her inspiring messages, you can visit her website, which is saralandon.com. That is saralandon.com. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Sara, for being here. And with that, we will sign off. See you next year, everybody.